Eureka! You found us! Welcome to the Check Out California radio show, your key to California hospitality. Hosted by Rad Gantos, principal of Rad Gantos and Associates, a hospitality and commercial real estate design firm, and Craig Sullivan, executive vice president of Park West GC, a hospitality and commercial real estate general contractor. Check Out California is focused on our state's hospitality, travel, and tourism markets, and on the large part they play in California's vibrant and innovative economic diversity and unique quality of life. Now, here are your hosts, Rad Gantos and Craig Sullivan.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig Sullivan.
And I'm Rad Gantos.
And welcome to Check Out California. Today we've got a very special guest, Mr. David Lund, the hotel financial coach. David has spent over 30 years working for an international brand. He helps you with your bottom line. He is here to explain his plethora of services to us, and I'm not going to go into his certifications because it's mind-boggling ABC to me. But David has been in the industry for over 30 years. He's a renowned and award-winning author, workshop, financial leadership, and many, many other things that he brings to your table and to help you and your team become a financial and dynamic hospitality company. David, welcome to Check Out California.
Thanks, gentlemen. Nice to be here.
So what's mind-boggling is what are you doing here with us?
Well, this good-looking gentleman over here, he hosts a conference every year, and he asked me if I'd like to be on your radio show.
Oh, the old conference ploy.
Yeah, exactly. So he lured me in.
So, another thing that's really mind-boggling is you and I were talking just a minute ago, and you were saying something to me that I actually found very interesting. I had never thought of it this way. I just assumed that the exact opposite was true.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in large chains, or the assumption is, and it's very common that people grow through the ranks. You kind of go through everything, front desk, and you make your way up through management and so forth and so on. That nowhere along the way, in a lot of cases, do you actually get the financial training that you are going to need to make the better decisions in that higher position.
That's absolutely correct.
That's fascinating.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Because those organizations are
secret.
But those organizations are so well known for their training when it comes to other aspects of their operation.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of reasons why that is. The number one reason is money's like that three-letter word that we're not supposed to mention. It's taboo to talk about money. And still to this day, a lot of hotel owners, especially the smaller ones, they don't even share the financials with the people that are running the building.
Yeah.
So,
it's just
keep
stunning.
Keep them in the dark and feed them mushrooms.
So it's not so much. It's not so much about not spending the money on training. It's about not sharing the numbers.
Well,
half
of it is not sharing. The other half is our industry. This was beat into my head for many years when I worked on the service side of things. Is look after the guests, and the money looks after itself. But that's not true. It's a myth. The money never looks after itself.
Doesn't it go out the back door at that point?
It goes out the front door, the back door.
Every opening you have, right?
Every opening, yeah. And then the other thing about the money is that, if you have a hotel and you train your staff, the owner pays for that. Right? So if you're Sheraton and you're training the staff, the owner is actually paying that. So the owner's paying to deliver the brand promise, right?
Yeah. Right. That's part of their obligations.
Same is true with colleague engagement when we have employee seasonal parties or sports teams or newsletters. All of that is to support the colleague engagement, but who's paying 100% of it? The owner.
The owner is,
yeah.
So if we were to give training to our managers and leaders, who would pay for it? The owner. And who would benefit?
The owner.
The owner.
And the associates.
And the associates and the brand.
Yeah.
So
guests, ultimately, all of them.
Brands largely are behind the eight ball when it comes to financial leadership training.
Interesting.
And it's something that could be easily fixed, but they're too busy really with the day-to-day and looking after the guests and the
sure that everything is still, all the wheels are still on the car.
Yeah.
David worked for 30 years at one of my favorite hotel. Well, you didn't spend your whole career
No,
there, but you
4
were
years.
at the Fairmont in San Francisco.
That's
Oh,
right.
And-
Beautiful property.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and,
love
and,
that.
and you spent a lot of time with Fairmont, and you know the dynamics of that company have always been fascinating to me, along with Four Seasons as well. And they've both gone through a lot of changes over the years and all that. But they did they empower their culture to
You know,
find out about financial?
Yeah.
You know, what is the hospitality financial leadership about?
Okay.
Did those two companies help you?
Well, let me tell you a little
prepare
story.
everything?
Let me tell you a little story on that. So it's about 10 years ago, and I'm the director of finance at a large hotel in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I'd been there a few months, not very long, and things weren't going very well. And the reason they weren't going very well is I was giving the owners forecasts that were out to lunch. And I can't sit in my office and dream up what's going to happen in the kitchen next month or the sales department or maintenance. It doesn't work that way. I
yeah.
need them to tell me
Give
what's
you
going
input.
on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me your forecast. Give me your numbers. Well, it's like pulling teeth in this hotel. It's like pulling teeth in most hotels to get the non-financial people to do the finance piece.
Right.
So a new GM.
I think it happens all over the country around tax time here too.
Yeah, exactly. But a new GM joined us, and she sat down with me and said, "David, tell me what's going on in finance." So I told her what my big challenge was, and she goes, "I have an idea. Why don't you create a workshop? We'll call it Hotel Finances for Dummies." And I said, "Hey, I don't have time to do that, and I'm not a teacher." And she looked at me and said, "You know, it's the right thing to do." So a couple months later, workshop day arrives.
Yeah.
HR's conscripted 35 people to come to my workshop, the worst offenders. And I was pretty sure.
But
was
HR
gonna
is good
suck.
at that.
Yeah, yeah.
Conscription is a good skill
Yes.
that HR has. Yeah.
That's
You
one
know,
of their many talents.
Exactly.
And I was pretty sure that my workshop was going to suck and that I was going to suck. But at the end of the day, I had a small lineup of leaders wanting to thank me and to share their experience with me. And I heard things like, "I've been here 5 years and nobody's ever explained the P&L to me before."
Wow.
On and on
See?
and on. And I knew from that moment I was on to something.
Something, yeah. And you know what? It's funny that you bring that up, that you found potential leaders in this class or this workshop. Now, when I was at Broughton Hotels, you know, it really was about empowerment and education for all the associates. Didn't matter, you know, if you were maintenance or housekeeping or in the C-suite. Okay, it was all about that because Larry was, and I've come to believe his philosophy and everything that I read and see. 60% of the workforce in this country is disengaged, and their biggest complaint is lack of education,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's frightening to me.
yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
they're-
okay,
they're
what are
coming-
we going to do about tomorrow? And getting back to like the conference,
Right.
that's why we bring in, you know, the students from Cal Poly Pomona in the Collins School. You know, it's about, you know, today's leaders and empowering tomorrow's talent and having this really nice dichotomy where they can reach across the generations and help one another. Because in our industry, we always do that.
Yeah. Well, leaders
It's hospitality.
leaders know that if they want to get to the top, they need to have financial acumen.
Yeah.
They need to have financial skills. And the only way you can get them in hospitality is if they're taught to you in-house, because you're running the hotel from the inside.
Absolutely.
You can't go to Cornell and learn how to do it. You can learn the theories,
Right.
but not the drills and not what we
There
need
is no
to do.
substitute for in the trenches experience.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody has the wherewithal, and I believe actually smart business acumen, to actually encourage that skill set to be developed. Because when you actually do that, if you want to look at it as being a selfish pursuit, you are developing that skill set in-house. Dependency, the fact that you have allowed somebody to grow, and we're talking about financial here, but I think this applies across the board, that anybody that's doing a particular role, a particular designated job description, and then is given an opportunity to grow their skills, to stretch, they're going to be more engaged in that job, in that role, than somebody who basically is just becoming routine, repetitive.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure all of you have experienced that person in your career who helped you along the way,
Yeah.
and you'd be willing to do anything for them, right?
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
exactly
You
what
show up on
the-
that Saturday
that's the
morning
transfer
when you're
right
not
here.
supposed to. You go that extra
Mentor.
mile at 6 o'clock in the afternoon to get something to somewhere. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's sort of people who say, well, that's all the benevolent thing about things. That's fine. But I will add another thing. It's also a very friggin' Machiavellian, manipulative, self-serving thing. Yes, but that's okay. It's a win-win either way.
We're not talking about the federal government here.
No, they're not smart enough to do that, right? But the point is that anybody sitting around this table at one point in their career, like you were saying, David, anybody who's listening to the show, they've been in that job. They've been in that role, whatever it is, whether it's like the friggin' burger flipper at McDonald's, or the guy basically the greeter at the front door of a 5-star hotel, or somebody that's inundated with all the responsibilities on the planet in a higher management position. If your day-to-day ends up being a monotonous, no growth, no gain of any level other than you're just basically there being a widget monkey pushing the buttons.
Yep.
Okay.
A widget monkey.
Yeah, that's my.
Did you get a trademark on that?
That's my MBA site coming out. Thank you, Peter Drucker. Right. But if you're just a widget monkey with a high salary or a low salary, eventually you're disengaged.
Sure, absolutely. Back to the 60% of people that are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing about financial leadership is that leaders, if they're given the kind of support and the structure to operate in, they all want to do this because they see that it's exciting. It's good for
them.
They thrive on it. And I met an owner at your conference, Craig, and he told me that he has 35 hotels. And I said, do you share the P&L with your hotels? He says, not even with the GMs. And I said,
wow.
I said, how's that working for you? And he kind of looked at me with I just asked him, if he would like to dance or something. And
you're about to tell people where the treasure is buried, David.
But he said, why? In a nutshell, he basically said, why would I want to spend the money to train them when they'll just take those skills and go across the street? I said, well, think about it this way: train them and they'll never leave. Give them give them that responsibility. They will love you. Sure, one or two will leave, but for the most part, they'll do such a much better job for you.
Isn't it amazing, right? Isn't it amazing?
It is.
That is
short-sighted.
Short-sightedness that happens at every level in every industry. That if I do, then I'm training you for somebody else.
Yeah, that's preposterous.
It's just not the way to look at it. You've got Sure, we want to have 90, 95%, or even dictator 97% retention, of our teams, but it isn't possible.
No.
Okay?
Well, and what's smarter, right, Greg? I mean, we all sit around this table here, Paul over there even. It's all about relationships, and we use it sometimes. We say that, and it almost sounds like it's a flippant cliche, right? It's all about relationships. It genuinely is all about relationships. If you provide that venue, that opportunity for somebody to grow personally and professionally under your wing, and then they basically leave and go somewhere else. You have not lost that relationships. In fact, to your point, David, that is that mentor. That is that nice, fond memory that I have of somebody who actually guided me when I was in that impressionable point.
Absolutely.
Those last.
How many people did they help train along the way in their departments, passing along the knowledge? Because that's what it is. It's about building a knowledge and a cultural base that can really support your organization.
And you're right, Greg. Larry Broughton is very big on that, and we talked about it when he was on the show.
Yeah,
it is a part of the legacy that you
part
leave.
Of the DNA.
The part of the DNA. There you go.
Yep, absolutely.
He does that every show.
So this little workshop I created went on. We did it once again that year. And
no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, and we submitted it to the brand, and the brand has an International Innovation Award, and we won the next year.
Wow.
And then,
because you did the thing that was needed.
I did the impossible.
Innovation.
I made the numbers fun. I made them interesting.
That's fantastic.
Which really isn't that hard to do.
David?
That was 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
And so you accidentally also kind of out of necessity and being, oh, shoot, I opened my mouth. Now I'm basically having to do this.
Yeah.
Finding yourself in actually something that in your own capacity was a growth.
Well, and it's funny because I never got into the hotel business planning to be a finance guy.
Yeah.
That's another story for another show, but
yeah.
I got into it.
We definitely have to
get
get
into
back
it
to that story,
on a real weird set of circumstances, which involved my brother and, well, another story. But
happy accidents?
Well, for 20 years, I operated in the financial field, and then that happened, and I realized why. Because I was actually there to experience what I did so that I could actually change the way our industry works. And that's my dream, is to change, to make the numbers just as easy as the guests and the colleagues.
So not to expand it, but now that you've basically dangled that thing in front of me, what made you get into the hospitality business?
Well, I was telling Craig at lunch, I grew up in the shadow of the Algonquin Hotel in a little town in Atlantic Canada, quite literally just across the street. And a summer job led to a career. And in the town I grew up in, the townies actually weren't allowed to work in the hotel. I was one of the first in over 100 years service staff that actually came from the town. Most of the service staff came from Montreal and Toronto because they were more sophisticated,
They were
I
all
guess.
imported. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that's how I get into the hotel business, and it's contagious, as you guys
It
know.
is.
Yeah.
It is. Once it gets into your system,
Into
there's
your
no,
DNA?
Yeah, into your DNA. Well, I was
Yeah.
going to say blood, but
No, into
DNA
your
works.
DNA. That's good.
DNA
Yeah.
works. So,
Absolutely.
so why are the operational finances such a challenge?
Well, hotels
Hotels.
are busy places, as you know.
Yeah.
7/24, the door never closes. Once the door opens, it never closes.
Yep.
And the managers are so busy with the guests and with the colleagues, and the numbers don't have a voice. Where the customer can reach out and grab you and get your attention all kinds of different ways these days. The same with the colleagues. They can get your attention. And that's what takes precedent normally. So the numbers fall by the wayside. So what a business needs to do is to make the numbers just as important as the guests and the colleagues, with their communication, with their training, with their level of comfort around them. And the numbers in the hotel are not difficult. We're not talking about rocket science here. It's really not that difficult. So with some support and training, we can make them just as important, and therefore they're going to be much easier to manage.
You know what's interesting about that parallel, that David, with some people that are, because being in hospitality, right, is being in a service industry. It's all about people. It's all about the touch component, right? And whether you're in a management level that are overseeing people that are providing this as a first point of contact with the guests, or you are that first point of contact with the guests, whether you're a server, you're a front desk, whatever. In a way, it reminds me of other industries that are either creative or service oriented or care oriented, where the financial component basically is lost.
Yes.
There isn't there's a discomfort with it because there's a lack of knowledge and it's the unknown kind of I fear. Secondly, it's one of those things where I think as long as it's there when I need it.
Yeah, absolutely. The bills are getting paid, right?
Hey,
Right.
yeah.
But then it's like, oh crap!
Payroll
How come the
was
bills
made.
can't? How come the? And I won't say what property this is, but
Yeah.
you know, I've seen 5-star properties basically have their cable or their Wi-Fi cut off because the bill didn't get paid for a number of months. They got passed it through and multiple layers of bureaucracy.
Yes.
And got lost
Yeah, absolutely.
until the guest said, "Well, how come I can't connect my iPad?"
Yeah. I was talking to a university professor a couple of
Uh-huh.
weeks ago, and he was telling me the exact same thing exists in the university environment because it's all departmentalized.
It's another one.
Finance runs this, and everybody else has no idea what's going on. There's disconnection, but there doesn't need to be. If we can make the financial education front and center and something that's just part of what we do, then
yeah.
it will melt away because it's not difficult.
It needs to be part of that, that as much as I find this phrase distasteful, standard operating procedure. You can't have that disconnect.
Yeah.
Let's educate our staff, or at least the department heads.
Well,
you don't have to do
you
everybody,
also don't have fallbacks
Yeah.
when you don't do that. Like, what if that one or two people that are basically in that department, either to what we were talking about, move on, or if that knowledge is so controlled and centralized that you basically then have to make a decision and you don't have access to that information.
Yeah.
It's not really smart business.
Nope. It's
Not
not.
at all.
I was talking to a owner of a hotel company, and I met with him and his VP of operations, and we were having a discussion about who's ultimately responsible for the finances in the hotel. And there was confusion between the two of them, whether
Yeah.
it was the director of finance or the GM. And finally, the owner said to his president, he said, the GM is responsible for the finances. And he goes, yes, that's right.
But the owner had to tell them.
Well, it's a bit of a puzzle for a lot of people because they think, well, the finance department produces the financial statements,
Yeah.
but who's ultimately responsible? And I draw a parallel to colleague engagement because I can remember when we started doing leadership training 25 years ago in my company. In those days, I was pretty sure HR was responsible for colleague engagement, not me as a department head. But we changed the culture in our company
Yeah.
to say that every manager who has a team of people, that's part of your job.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that, David, is that we fall into this. It's not my job description very
Yeah.
quickly,
Very
Yeah.
quick.
and yet at the same time we look at other people and go, we really want people to be multi-hat wearing.
Yes, and we want to have everybody understand what's going on, but we don't have a system to teach people.
Yeah, we don't have a system in place to
don't. We fall
basically
down on that
empower them
completely.
to do that.
Yeah.
Paul, are we going to go to a break?
Yes.
Okay, let's
Okay,
go
let's
to
go to our
break and
break.
come back, and we'll talk about more of that stuff.
Yeah, cheers.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything: your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
Imagine buying a newspaper and discovering that the news you're reading is 6 months old. There isn't much that stays the same for 6 months, and the same thing goes for background checks. In a time when so much outdated information is being passed around, it's good to know that People G2 offers something different. At People G2, we provide today's intelligence, not yesterday's news. Our value-added approach offers you a fully FCRA-compliant solution that includes up-to-the-minute information. By combining industry-leading technology with old-school human investigation, People G2 is able to give you information that is accurate right now, delivered quickly through our online system, or integrated with your HR system. So ask yourself, are you comfortable working with old news, or are you ready for a different kind of background check company? Visit peopleg2.com or call 800-630-2880. That's 800-630-2880 or peopleg2.com.
We are back. I'm Craig Sullivan.
And I'm Rod Gantos.
And we have David Lund, the hotel financial coach, with us in the studio today. Welcome back. David, tell us about some of your success stories. You had started telling us about an owner that you met at the Click conference, at 35 hotels. Didn't sound like he was really interested in sharing that information with his team leaders.
Surprised that he
I
should.
I hope he does. I hope he comes back to you to do a seminar for them. But tell us about some of the other the success stories that you've had.
Sure.
And if I may, before you do that, David, just to add onto the question is, how has it changed? You've been doing this for a decade. So has there been a change in both the people that are attending these things, the clarity on the need for it?
I believe so, but it's slow going. I must tell you that our industry's done so well from a top line point of view that the bottom line has been there for many, many hotels.
Mm-hmm.
But what's in the middle will really be tested when the phone stops ringing and the top line stops growing, because that's the only move a hotel can make at that point, is to manage the middle of the statement and become more efficient with their payroll, which is 50 cents of every dollar, and their expenses. And if they have managers that don't know how to do their forecast, don't know what's in their payroll, and don't know how to adjust when occupancy drops, that's when the attention is going to come to the middle of the statement, and training and financial leadership.
So what are some of those successes, to Greg's point, that you've had?
Well, I have one client that I did a 6-month project with here in Orange County, and we basically started out with a schematic of the 15 leaders in the hotel with the 5 things that they need to do. They need to do their forecast. They need to track the revenues in the month for the month. Mm-hmm. They need to adjust their spending based on our revenue target. Are we going to make our revenues? They need to review their month-end statements to make sure they're right, and review their GLs. And they need to write their commentary, and then they need to start all over again. That's the system. Yeah. So when we started, this schematic was absolutely blank. Nobody was doing any of that. And when we finished 6 months later, we had over 75% of those managers doing those 5 things every month. And the tightness and the ability for the hotel to perform financially had improved significantly, even to the point where the president of the company personally called me to thank me for having his hotel, which was the worst on their financial intelligence and forecasts, was now the best 6 months later.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's quite a statement.
I would think that at the very least, the outcome of that is that you at least knew where you had problems.
Well, and leaders
By
all
tracking them.
want to know their financial piece.
Right.
And when you sit down with them and you provide them the seminars and then the one-on-one coaching to find out what's holding them back, give them the education, find out what's holding them back, connect that with the finance person and the GM and their overall plan and strategy for the business, then you move forward. It's like moving the ball down the field in football.
Right.
One play after another.
Yeah.
We're going to get down the field.
What are some of the things that hold people back?
Fear.
Be
A
more specific.
common misconception is, I call it management by embarrassment, but you go to the department head meeting and you're over in your payroll and someone says to you, well, how come you're over? And all of your peers are looking at you.
At you,
It's
yeah.
a very unsettling experience for a lot of people. So we want to turn that around, and we want to give the money a fair and equitable voice and give the people the support and training they need so that if they are over in their payroll, they can tell you exactly why. Because
Why.
lots of times
Yeah.
there's really good reasons.
Yeah.
You know, so fear is the number one culprit. Number two is lack of awareness and lack of training. And it's simple. I always say to people, if you can go to the grocery store with a list and come back with the items on the list on budget, then you can manage your expenses. Because it's really the same thing. You
Yeah.
just need a list, and you need to know what's on the list.
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden revenues this month are down 15%, I say instead of $100 going to the grocery store, I'm only going to give you 85. Figure
yeah.
out what you're going to buy.
Right.
And they do. But if you don't have a list, and if it's all based on a percentage of revenue, you have no rudder in the water. You can't turn the ship.
You used
Yeah.
to have used to have classes in school that would basically give you some basic, like how to balance your checkbook,
Yes.
how to
They
make
haven't
how
done
to
that
do
for a
savings.
while.
Yeah.
And they haven't done for a while.
No.
So to just take this more of a helicopter view of this thing is there's a lot of people walking around that have no idea
Well, if you don't
how
know
to
what's
even balance their checkbook.
Yeah, if you don't know what's in the middle of your statement, if you do not know what your expenses are on a zero base, and if you don't know what your staffing guide is, fixed and variable, and how to react to different business volumes, you are flying by the seat of your pants.
Pants, yeah.
As
And your
soon-
lenders and everybody, your investors, they're just simply not going to tolerate that. Yeah. Let alone, and that's not even getting to the institutional grade. Okay, it's that mid-scale owner that stepped up, that's no longer living in the owner's apartment, and he's not sharing things. Okay, you've got to be able to put it out
Well,
there.
and it's not small numbers. I mean, regardless of whatever scale. I mean, on average, you've got a big, huge payroll.
Absolutely.
You got it's a very labor-intensive industry.
Up to 50% normally.
Yeah.
So it's not chump change that you can basically just ignore until you start getting notifications that you're in trouble.
Right. But that's the lineage of the hotel business. It's
Interesting.
It's feast or famine, right?
It is, and I'm looking over, some of your services that you offer, and I like this one-on-one executive coaching for hospitality professionals, one-on-one financial tutoring for aspiring hotel leaders. Is just a couple of examples in there. Budget and monthly financial critiques for owners, asset management services for owners. Now, I've got to figure, as more and more people are doing asset management, and there is a huge degree of difference between a asset manager for a hospitality asset versus a retail.
Right, it's a totally different animal.
Yeah. So you've got to be really, I would think, busy right now trying to bring asset managers up to speed on what they need to be doing when it comes to help a hotel to remain profitable.
Yeah, I mean, the typical asset manager works for an institutional owner.
Yeah.
And they've got great experience in the business, but they're there to grind the hotel
Right.
to produce
Cut
a
the
certain
CapEx,
number.
yeah.
Whereas my approach with the asset manager, with the owner, is what do they want to achieve?
Right.
And what are they not bringing to the table as far as skills and services inside of the hotel that are going to help them with their bottom line? And the best way to unleash that is to figure out leader by leader what each contribution is and what it could be. So if you're running the room service department and we've got hooks on the profitability right now, how can we turn that department around? What do we need to do? Rather than the asset manager showing up and grinding the hotel.
Right.
Right? So it's about finding solutions rather than pointing out problems.
Well,
Yeah.
you're bringing up an important point that the numbers, as much as we are basically trying to say the numbers, give them a voice, the numbers are important, all this stuff, the numbers themselves are also a tool towards a strategy and a goal. And if there's a vision for that property, whether it's in a case of repositioning, whether it's a case of a launch, all those things factor in. And so to have somebody that's just looking at the numbers alone, that's
Yeah.
equally not
Do you
the
know
kind
that-
of leadership that you want to.
One of the things that is low-hanging fruit for me, but when I work with owners, just looking at the quality of their financial statements, it's amazing what's missing in most financial statements when it comes to hotels.
Don't you think some of that's by design?
No, I don't. It's
ignorance?
It's ignorance,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
So
right.
the number one
things like
thing,
what? Yeah.
number one thing missing from a hotel financial statement is productivity. So 50% of
Wow.
our top line goes to labor, but we have no way
Of
in those
measuring
financials,
productivity.
and it's so easy to put into those
Yeah.
financials.
Yeah.
And I teach a seminar on exactly that.
And
Create-
in some cases, you can't do it after the. I mean, you can go and look at historical data and do it after the fact and start an evaluation. But if you really are interested in having that quantifiable factor, you have to actually instill those measures into the process. Wouldn't you?
Well,
agree?
you put it into the forecast, you put it into
Exactly.
your schedules, you track it. And if we were making cars, we would be fascinated with the number of hours it takes to make a car.
Car, yeah.
And we would constantly innovate to
Right,
become
to improve.
better, to
Exactly.
bring our costs down,
We
to
need
keep
to
our
do the same
costs in
thing with a
line.
hotel.
We need to do the same
Absolutely.
thing with a hotel, and
Yeah.
it's you know.
Oh wait, it's a feeling
I
service
know, I know,
provision.
it's-
It's all about hospitality.
It's kiss the
Kiss,
poodle.
kiss, yeah.
I don't think we've had somebody kiss the mic actually on the air before on this show.
You know, I was just thinking, you may be doing this already, but if not, maybe this is something for your business model. You know, a lot of lenders out there offer seminars, symposiums for their upscale depositors, okay,
Yeah.
people they've got relationships with. So have you gone back to, say, Robert Lowe at East West Bank and go, here, let me, set up a symposium with you for your hotel owners and let's educate them.
Yeah.
That way when they come in to do their next refinance, they've got their financial statements in a lot better shape.
Yeah.
Make it a lot easier for
great idea.
their advocate at the bank to go, hey guys, we want to make this loan and this
Yeah.
is why.
Right.
So, I mean, there could be another
No,
addition to your.
Please
You know.
open up your Rolodex after the show and give me this guy's
Hey.
name. I'll give him a call.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So kind of following up on that a little bit, how do people get hold of you? And do you find a lot of people that basically reach out to you? They're reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Click is his booking service now.
Yeah.
The biggest
Is they calling you because they're in desperation? They're calling you because they've just had a bad something, or
the biggest card I have for drawing customers in is I write a weekly blog on all things hospitality financial leadership.
Yeah.
And I publish it to 3,000 people on
So it's
my
very
list,
very good
as
blog,
well
yeah.
as LinkedIn and on Facebook. And a lot of people find me. I offer free tools. So at the bottom of every one of my blogs, I give away my flow-through cheat sheet. I give away a bunch of other stuff. But people will write to me and say, "Can you give me this stuff?" And then it creates a conversation with that person. How can I help them
There you go.
inside of their business?
Well, let's
So-
give the audience
Give-
your email and your website.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's David at hotelfinancialcoach.com and hotelfinancialcoach.com is the website. So please reach out to David there. You can always call the studio and ask Paul, and he'll give you that information as well.
So
You
David,
can call Paul.
they can call him what?
Anything they want.
Anything they want.
Anything they want.
But just too low hanging fruit. I had to go there. But David, let me ask you: how do you quantify things, and do they have a place in this kind of sort of training? Right, things that are sort of important these days, like social engagement or community responsibility. Like, because a lot of these properties that are located in communities, established communities or destination and whatever, there is definitely a benefit, I would think, strategically, to tie in with the community, to be involved in things that are givebacks.
Yeah.
Is there a place for that in this kind of training? And if so, how do you quantify that?
Well, I really believe that it's a trickle-down effect because, in my experience, if your boss knows what he's doing with the numbers
Right.
or any other discipline, they're going to naturally teach you. So the hotel community is crying out for leadership and for knowledge around the financial piece. And having a boss that actually understands that and can teach you, that's the best thing you can possibly have, because that's what was missing for me in the early part of my career when I worked in operations. Was no one knew what the HE double hockey sticks was going on with the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So that is where, as a community, we can really come together, because again, this is not difficult stuff.
But how do you qualify? And I guess I apologize. When I was in this particular context, I was saying community as in the location in which these properties are placed. How do you qualify, for example, an engagement with that property, or encourage the engagement of that property and that management team into sort of nonprofit activities that benefit the community at large, that are in which they are basically placed. I mean, how is there a place? I guess my question is there a place for that? Because we hear a lot these days about, social responsibility and how that factors into corporate reality and culture, right? And a lot of people that are working in these environments, like we were talking about, encouraging them to be engaged. A lot of these people basically live within proximity of these properties, and they are,
Part of the hood.
they're part of the hood. And so is there a value?
Absolutely, yeah. And in my experience, hotels have been leaders in their communities when it comes to supporting environmental issues. For example, when I was in San Francisco, every year the Fairmont San Francisco would participate in the coastal cleanup. And we would have 200 colleagues out there on a Saturday morning picking garbage up off the beach on San Francisco Bay. And it's a great activity. The hotel supported it, provided the coffee and the transportation and the T-shirts. And, we picked up a couple of tons of trash on a Saturday morning. And that's what hotels have always had the hallmark of being, is social leaders in their communities. And I really believe that that's a place a hotel covets, because it gives them great recognition within the community.
I mean, it's the easy way to refer to it, in my mind, would be free advertising. However, there's also vestedness in the community, which when it comes to, we talk about these properties as being places where people celebrate moments, right? Celebrate things,
icons,
that are, moments in their life, benchmarks, graduations, fundraisers for their schools, weddings, birthday parties. That if you have a partner that basically sounds like they are vested in the community, then you are going to have a lot of benefits. And the question is, when somebody is so focused on the numbers only, how do you sell that? How do you convince them? Or is it already built into the DNA of the industry?
Well, being focused on the numbers simply means they're in balance with the other constituents, the guests and the colleagues. So it's not all about being the numbers. It's simply bringing them up to the same level of awareness as the other two constituents. And then once you do that, the great thing about it is there's more resources to be spent on things like this.
Right.
Well, that's
the payback.
Right. No, it's true.
I agree with that.
And word of mouth support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that for the most part, we in the hospitality industry don't toot our own horn about that. Okay, we may have
That's exactly why I brought it
Madison Avenue or whoever's doing our marketing that is a third party do that. Okay. Everybody in this room knows that hospitality is the first one to give back. Whether it's cleaning up the beach or it's taking in our neighbors who've just had their homes wiped out by a fire, flood, an earthquake, bringing first responders to stay in there, EMTs from, various other locations that have had to come in, and it goes on and on. Using the parking lot as staging centers for water and food for some of these people. And we don't do a good enough job, in our industry to bring that point out.
To your point, Greg, it's done by a third party.
Yeah.
When I don't really want to hear from an agency in New York about how the property that's in South County, basically, South Orange County, was involved in something that was important for that community.
Yeah.
The smart thing would be to actually have the management of that property that was involved basically be the ones that are basically seen engaging.
A good muscle for any wonderful hotel to have is a public relations person or service or whatever that can get those great stories out. And I know that someone that I personally know in that field after the Sonoma fires wrote a great piece, and it got picked up by several papers and agencies about how a hotel actually helped the community, and by having 3 people who were left behind, the GM and the director of PR and the maintenance manager, how they actually were able to feed hundreds of people, just 3 people.
Love it.
So that's where the
power is. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yes.
And now's our natural break.
If you're going to say you're in hospitality, taking care of people is an important part of what we do.
Absolutely.
Paul, we have somebody on the line?
I believe we
talk about feeding people.
Yeah, talk about timely call in here. Identify yourself, caller, and join the conversation.
Hello, gentlemen. Bill Bracken with Bracken's Kitchen.
Hey,
Hi,
Bill.
Bill. You got Rad,
Bill.
Craig, and David here. How are you? Along with Paul.
Great.
Now you realize that you happened to call perfectly right when they started to segue into hotels giving back and feeding people and helping out.
He's in the food industry, man. He smelled that question coming.
How are you, Bill?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great. Thanks for calling in today.
No, it is perfect timing because I was talking with David and I'm trying to figure out the social component, the social responsibility component that sometimes almost it's almost like saying, oh, we're green. It's like, do you really live that or not? And when it comes to hospitality, I think we do have it in the DNA of the industry to be involved very much and give back and be charitable in that way. But like to Greg's point, we don't usually highlight that. And there is real value in it. And it happens to be that what David was talking about is actually basically being involved like in feeding people. So I know you have both a hospitality background, plus you are involved in literally feeding people now.
Every day,
So
365.
So I really appreciate the call, Bill. It's perfect timing.
Well, sometimes it just works that way, I guess. But it's interesting you're talking about giving back. I was on a phone call this morning with a local well-known restaurant publicist here in Orange County, and she's talking about the enormous amount of requests that are happening for hotels and restaurants as of lately. And the reality is the percentage of giving in America hasn't changed in the last 30 years. The dollar amount goes up and down with the economy, but the percentage that people give to nonprofits hasn't. And as the need grows and as the work of nonprofits like Bracken's Kitchen grows, so many people are forced to turn to the first place, hospitality, throw a fundraiser, do an event, raise money. And hospitality is an extremely giving industry, needless to say. But part of the time, you've got to get real creative instead of just tossing dollars at a problem. What are some other solutions that you can do to really make a difference?
Well,
Exactly.
and let's give people like a quick synopsis on Bracken's Kitchen for those who don't know, Bill, please, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. We're a nonprofit hunger relief organization. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary, and I founded it after 25 years in luxury hotels, and I felt a need and calling to go out and do something different with my talent and skill. And we provide healthy, nutritious meals to people in need, whether they're someone living in poverty, facing homelessness, hunger, whatever it looks like. So we're out feeding people directly with our food truck Betsy, and we also provide thousands of meals every week to other nonprofits that are out there in a collaborative nature that have clients in needs but that don't have the abilities that we do to provide those healthy, nutritious meals.
And what do you say to the people that say, well, that's only a fact of life for the homeless, Bill? What do you say to those people?
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
If you knew some of the people, and I mean, we live in Southern California, and whether we realize it or not, there's so many people that are a paycheck away from homelessness. And
yeah.
I used to be one of those individuals that thought that, the homelessness and all the issues and it's your own fault you got in that situation. But now I can say that I know more homeless people than I ever would have imagined knowing, and I hear their stories and how they end up where they're at. And there is the homeless. I mean, I just got a text today from a homeless kid. He is, well, technically he's not homeless. He's 18 years old. He's a senior at Ocean View High School, and he was homeless, and he just now found an apartment. His parents,
Wow.
I don't know the whole story, but an 18-year-old kid living on his own, trying to graduate high school. No kid should have to go through that.
No,
Everybody's
and
got a
you know what? Speaking of that, I was blown away and, again, saddened that in the country like ours, a great country like ours, that I was listening to teachers. There was these teacher walkouts that were happening in some states in the last couple of days, and there was a teacher that was actually talking about how they held multiple jobs, and in some cases they were actually going to the soup kitchen in order to basically be able to sustain themselves. So that's because to your point, we look at this through a very biased filter sometime, or a prejudging filter, but people in affluent society communities such as Orange County, in some cases they're a paycheck away from being homeless. They're one bad medical expense away from being homeless.
One car accident.
And for all of us that are involved in the hospitality or the being of hospitable nature service industry, that is very much part of our DNA. I think you can't. I mean, kudos to you. And there's a reason why I know you were involved on the Click with and Craig, and we've said from day one that Bracken's Kitchen is the charity of choice for this show, for Check Out California, and it's very timely to always remember this. We talk about the numbers, we talk about this, but there is a being of service component to this, to thy neighbor.
Exactly.
And to others. So, Bill, I know you also have. You're always doing stuff.
Do you have
got
a
something?
fundraiser
You got
coming up,
something
Bill?
coming up or something?
The Hungry Games.
Wait, I thought that was the show right now.
Well, we really, it's really ironic that we're talking about hospitality and Hungry Leaf. And, I've, as a chef in luxury hotels for 25 years, I've participated in tons of events and raised money for everything from the American Liver Society to the Heart Cancer, you name it. There's so many great organizations. But when it comes to Hunger Relief, I've always found it such a dichotomy to do a big fancy food and wine event, and people come in and pay a lot of money and drink too much alcohol and eat too much food, and we do this to raise money for some family or some kid who's not eating dinner tonight. So we really struggled over the last 5 years what kind of event we can do, because you have to do events to raise money.
Sure.
And so we landed on the idea of the Hungry Games, and it's a take on the movie The Hunger Games, which I might add I have never watched and I know nothing about, but I'm blessed to have a 26-year-old volunteer coordinator that's sitting beside me as I talk to you, who keeps me up to date on everything Hunger Games related. So, if you watch the movie, you know that our motto with the Hungry Games is "May the odds be ever in your flavor."
There you go.
Very good.
Love it, Bill.
So someone else came up with that. I can't take credit for, but we have a half a dozen of Orange County top chefs. No, that's cool. We're slowly announcing it one by one. I did kind of put a teaser out today on social media that the Dean of Bread in Orange County is going to be providing all the bread for the event. That is, of course, Dean Kim of OC Baking, the premier bread baker in Southern California. But we'll be announcing the chefs kind of one by one over the next couple of weeks. So we'll have 6 chefs there just doing some appetizers, a low-key event, not a lot of money to go to the event or buy tickets, and come together. We got the Art Institute of Orange County, which is a huge supporter of ours, is hosting the event with 3 different live kitchens that we'll be operating in. So it's a night in the kitchen. LA Specially, one of our big sponsors, is sponsoring the event. So we're just gonna have a good time with some good food, friends, and fun. And
what's
talk about Hungry Leaf and raise some money for people.
What day is that, Bill?
That is on Thursday, May 3rd. I think it's a month from tomorrow.
Okay, and is all the information up on your website?
Yeah, actually, there's a pop-up on www.brackenskitchen.com. There's a pop-up screen there that talks about an invitation. You can click on a link, go in and buy tickets.
And Bracken's Kitchen on
fun.
social media as well. You can find the information there as well.
Yeah, Facebook, you can buy it there. We got a few surprises and some fun things we're going to curves in the event. And, in kind of the movie fashion, the Hunger Games, when you never know what's going to happen. We're going to, we can't give away all the secrets, but we're going to have a little fun.
And is this taking place at the Art Institute, Bill?
Yeah, the Art Institute in Costa Mesa, one of our big supporters, one of our board members runs a culinary program there, and we're actually working with them on working out some training programs for some of our at-risk youth who have an interest in culinary arts and a career in hospitality.
Yeah, Rad's teaching there as well.
Yeah, I'm actually. Yeah, I did run into your friend, and they've got a great program there. I'm actually back in there teaching this quarter my class on hospitality and hotel design that I've taught there before.
Oh, fantastic!
So,
I didn't know that. Maybe I'll bump into you over there.
I'm sure
there later this week.
I'm sure we will. Actually, in fact, my class starts tomorrow. But it's a great space, and it's awesome. We've had they're very involved. They've had everything from fashion shows to. I mean, this is going to be really kind of cool. And we'll make sure to share that information on the Check Out California page as well.
Absolutely.
And I'll look forward to it very much. Again,
Bill, I'll be in town, so I'm going to definitely try and rally the family and bring them over that night as well. So
that's great.
Great hearing from you, and thank you for calling in.
So again, check out.
I appreciate you having us.
And the website, Bill, again for Bracken's Kitchen.
brackenskitchen.com or org.org. Either one of them gets you there. And we look forward to seeing you on May 3rd.
Thanks,
Cool.
Bill,
Thanks,
for
Bill.
calling. It's awesome. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bill Bracken is one of those rare individuals. He was the executive chef at both the Four Seasons and the Peninsula Hotels up in Beverly Hills that I met through my association with Broughton Hotels. Robert Rycroft, the CFO over at Broughton, and him used to work together. And he goes, "You got to meet this guy." And he told me about it. I said, "Got to have him on the show." So we had him on the show. And I was so moved by him that I made a donation here on the air to him, unbeknownst to him. And then Brad and I talked, and we said, whatever we can do to help him and Bracken's Kitchen with both the show, and I also, with Click, he was one of the groups that we presented a check to. It's just, in my opinion, the sun rises and sets on Bill Bracken. He's out there 365. He is serving nutritious meals to a lot of families and a lot of children in this county that, over the weekend, he may be their only source of nourishment.
It was really very poignant because this is somebody that he shared, basically has been in the industry for many years.
We're going to take a break now, and we're going to come back, and we're going to spend probably about another 10 to 15 minutes with David. I've got some more questions for him, and Rad's got some questions for him. So we're going to go to a commercial. We'll see you on the flip side.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything: your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
And the worst part? Searching for cardboard boxes. It's absolutely prehistoric. Digging through dumpsters, going from store to store, buying stacks of them you're only going to throw away later. Well, now there's an answer. Bungo Box. Bungo boxes are durable, stackable, eco-friendly, plastic moving containers that will cut the cost of your packing supplies in half. And they're made of hard plastic, which gives you much more protection for your precious belongings. Much better than cardboard. Bungo boxes hold over 100 pounds per box, plus our boxes never, ever need tape. That's right, no tape. But since our Bungo boxes come with fitted dollies, your movers will move at the speed of light. So whether you, your friends, or your office are moving, there's really only one solution: Bungo Box. Find out more at bungoboxoc.com. That's bungoboxoc.com. Or call 714-725-7292. You order them, we deliver them. You move, we pick them up. That's bungoboxoc.com. All right, I have to just point out that Craig was beating me up about Michigan getting lost again for a national championship here. I mean, I don't know what that has to do with
Hey, I wanted them to win. That's all I can say. I wanted them to win. Hey, we are back. We've got David Lund with us. And, David, I want to move on to some more questions with you, please, since we're going to run a little long today. We kind of covered what's missing from most of the hotel financial statements. Did you want to go any more into that, or do you want to go on to something else?
The one other thing that's missing, other than productivity measurements, is what I call flow-through. So, basically, hotels are always comparing themselves to either the budget or last year.
Right.
So a great comparison to last year is, how much did my revenues go up? Well, maybe they went up a couple $100,000 in the month of February compared to last year. Actually, how much profit made it to the bottom line of that $200,000? So that's a really
profit management instead of revenue management.
Absolutely. So that's
something
a really
we should talk about
important metric, is to manage the flow through, whether it's positive or negative. Because if revenues are going down, you want to be able to retain your expenses and mitigate that loss.
Right.
So that's an important thing that's missing.
I agree. What is the most effective leadership strategy to deliver the best financial results in a hotel?
Well, the best strategy is to make sure that every single person who consumes your resources, in other words, if they do a schedule or if they order supplies,
he's going to start charging us.
They need to know what's in their forecast. They need to actually do their forecast, and they need to actually be on top of their numbers, so that a hotel is many, many departments, and if every single department is actually managing those numbers properly, it all comes together very well. And if it is not being done that way, it's a disaster. So that's the strategy, is to get each manager doing their own thing.
Well, that's very, very. I was about to ask a question. You kind of just set me up really perfectly there, which is
You're welcome.
that it's. I was talking to David. But no, I mean it brings out the point of this, right? Because it's a moving target when it comes to the hospitality industry, because every property, I don't know if Greg, you and I have had this conversation about every property has a different mix depending on a whole bunch of variables: location, offerings, philosophy, in some cases these newer brands, who's their target
brands,
markets, whatever,
yeah.
right? A lot of people went through the
Millennials
having multiple restaurants, cutting back to a 3-meal, in some cases even not having the 3-meal be internally operated, bringing in an outside operator. I mean, it's a constantly evolving industry in how it basically operates, right? And it's very much reflective of the time and the society. So we have properties that may have traditional amenities, traditional departments, if you will, right?
Yep.
And you may have, like banquet, for example, is one that's an easy one. We said 3-meal restaurant. Let's say it's just a main signature restaurant, right? So food and beverage, banquet and catering, those all have their own nuances of how you pitch and sell and monetize and actually quantify, right? You also have things like spas. You have things like wellness centers. You have things like maybe like joint workspaces. You have things that are going to be basically brought into this matrix, where you have management that maybe has evolved through the corporate structure and gone through the ranks, but really have never had a personal experience or a reference point to a new thing that we're bringing into this matrix. Okay. So how do you empower those people? Because you got a management that's saying, okay, I get it, I understand, I need to understand the numbers, and I need to be in charge of the thing and whatever, and I got department heads, but I really don't understand. I'll use spas for an example,
Yes.
right? When was the last time a general manager basically had a massage? Or actually spent some time getting a facial?
Right.
And how do you then
every
allow-
Friday.
Every Friday.
Every Friday.
how do you-
We'd have somebody come into the office. Seriously.
Okay, so what time and when can I be there?
Right.
I'm not at that company
Right,
anymore,
okay.
but
No,
I'll give you the phone number.
Right. Okay.
offline.
So, but the point,
no,
the
point
point
is,
is, if you don't understand it, how
sure.
do you even do that? And I find this to be a common melee sometimes from people that are sitting in positions of authority in those particular sectors of the matrix, that basically do not have the autonomy to do what they're supposed to do. Because let's take again spa as an example. You have a matrix of retail that is different from the sundry shop. You have a matrix of potential opportunity of intermixing it with food and beverage. If you have a longer stay, for example, that starts to tie into a health and wellness component.
Well, what I really think is...
Do you face that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to have a general manager who's he or she is a great leader and can hire the people who have the talents to run the spa and give them the resources they need. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if that spa is a success, which means it's driving rooms business. Because that's in a hotel where you make all the money is rooms. You're not going to make it in the spa. You'd be lucky to break even in the spa. You'd be lucky to break even in food and beverage when you get down to it.
In fact, I'll go further. The only way certain spas that are in large facilities, and we're talking about ones that have multiple rooms and a lot of real estate that's high-priced real estate that's allocated for those functions, the only way for them to really be sustainable is to go beyond the draw on the room stay. It is actually to have a program of local and supported.
Absolutely.
And you need to have somebody.
So it's no longer a loss leader, is what you're saying.
Well, you can be. It used to be a loss leader. It used to have people that would basically open these things. It wasn't even a requirement, to be honest with you, until about like late 90s to actually call yourself a resort unless if you had a spa. And then at some point it became that you couldn't call yourself a resort if you didn't have a spa. And 10 years from now, it may be that you can't call yourself a resort if you don't have a mixed-use workspace, you know?
Right.
I mean,
one really important component to remember is that hotels are governed by the 11th edition of the Uniform System of Accounts for hotels.
Right.
That's what the whole industry uses.
Yep.
And it actually dictates that the food and beverage operations, the spa operations, are accounted for differently than they would be on a standalone. So if you're looking at a hotel statement and it says food and beverage is making 20%, well, guess again, because none of the overheads are being charged there, none of the sales and marketing, no utilities, no property taxes, nothing. So you really need to dig into the statement and see what's going on relative to supporting the machine that drives the hotel, which is the rooms operation.
Right. Now, would you take, when you're talking to your clients and you're going through business plans with them, and let's just say you've been under contract for development of a new hotel, Now, they come to you and go, we're not very good with food and beverage,
Right.
okay, which a lot of people in our industry aren't. They're
Yes.
getting there. They're getting educated. That's changing. But like any ship, it's going to take time to turn that around. Would you suggest to them using a third-party operator, just leasing it out? Or
If definitely depending on the location and where they're at and the offering that they want to put together, it makes a lot of sense sometimes because that isn't the expertise of the hotel operator.
Yeah.
And food and beverage is an expensive proposition these days, especially if you're opening a new hotel.
Yeah, and if you're losing on that right
Yeah.
off the bat, it's
Absolutely.
Well, and you have to provide a certain expectation level.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And that may not be something that you can accomplish internally.
Yeah.
Like most of the hotels being built today are limited service hotels, and the reason why
Right.
is because they can drive a 50 or 60% GOP.
Right.
If you have a full service hotel, you're never going to do that.
No,
Never.
Now, we've also launched 40 new brands in the past 24 months.
Yeah, what do you
Yes.
think about all of that? There's a lot of
You know,
And we understand part of it.
Yeah.
And let's use Anaheim. Okay, we're out of flags. We can't put another Marriott product in there. All of
That's a
sudden
big
we got
part of it.
Delta. Now all of a sudden
that's a
we
big
got
part
this.
of it.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll
you know,
put it in there.
proximity
AC.
rights
Yeah.
and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I think brands are important, but I also think that consumers aren't really interested in a brand so much as they are interested in what their expectations and experience needs to be. So they'll look through all of
Yeah.
that and find something that's appealing to them. Now, it might be by design that brand is the one that they choose, but I think more so it's based on their experience and what their own value proposition is.
Are we downloading? Are we diluting the industry with all these brands?
We're
Absolutely.
downloading it as well.
Yeah,
So
downloading it, yeah, and
doing
diluting it.
both, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand
We're
why.
trying to be a right fit for everybody, kind of through some sort of vehicle.
Well, it's
offering.
so confusing. I mean, just as a hotel person to look on
Yeah.
Expedia and look at all the different names and go, okay, well, what is it that I'm going to be comfortable staying in?
Yeah.
I know myself. It all comes down to that personal awareness and decision.
And are they really? I mean, you brought it up a minute ago. You used the term that I'm very fond of. Is there actually a genuine, unique value proposition on each one of these brands?
I think for the stronger stated brands, there definitely is.
And also the rewards program. Let's not forget about that as well. That's important. I don't know if that's as important to the millennials as it is to the boomers.
Right.
Well, it may not be important to millennials now, but I think
Yeah.
it's the nature of reward programs.
But I also think if you've got something, okay. At one point in time, I probably had a reward card for
everything.
every hotel.
And what do you
chain
have in
out
your
there.
wallet now?
Yeah,
What's in your
exactly.
wallet?
Now it's just American Express. So,
right.
And,
Yeah.
and their points are universal. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm kind of good with that. So, I mean,
That's why I asked about the diluting.
yeah, I get a ton of points from Hilton from putting on the conference there, the
Yeah.
past couple of years, which is great. But is it a driving force for me to go stay at another Hilton product?
I think the brands
No. I might give it to my
service
kids.
the
so-
brands in themselves service the bigger brands that are selling franchise and management agreements because they
Yeah.
have to have more things to sell,
More.
more
Let's
things
bring
to
more
sell.
in.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that makes sense. But to the consumer, I think it's very confusing.
I think it's very confusing. The
Well,
other thing
if-
it helps
if-
out with is on the financial side is the ability to get a hotel built, to
Sure.
get a hotel sold and refinanced. Now it is more difficult, not impossible, but it is certainly more difficult with a independent and or a boutique lifestyle hotel than it is for a 125 to 220 key
Cookie
select
cutter.
service cookie cutter branded anything you
Yeah.
want. I mean, they look at that and they go, oh, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, IHG, Choice, Wyndham. Yeah, no problem.
Right.
Well, yeah, we'll
Here's-
give you a loan.
Here's the feasibility study.
Right. Yeah, here you go.
It's a can.
But
It's a can.
but you know what's what I mean, and I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I guess it's all supply and demand, right? But I look at that, and if the three of us sitting around this table that are involved in this to the point of really being interested into finding out the differentiation between these things, that are saying that this is confusing, that I've lost kind of the nuance of what the differences are. Oh, the first couple ones that came, I think I paid attention. Now every other day I'm getting one, and then the pictures are starting to look pretty darn similar. Like it's all gastropub, and it's like the different tile on the floor, but it's basically the same idea.
Edison
And,
lights.
Edison lights. Oh yeah. Oh,
Get rid of those.
Wow, that's
I'm
new.
over that.
What's Edison lights exactly? Or recycled
It's
woods?
like, how many different brands does Mercedes have of cars? Like, can you tell me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
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 It's
I
just
can't.
endless.
I couldn't tell you how many General Motors have.
But I
so-
also to be
crazy.
but to be honest with you, David, also for me, that's a sad thing.
Yeah.
That when Mercedes basically started rolling out everything, it's like when Jaguar did an SUV. To me, that was a sad moment. Okay, I understand there's a demand in the market, and I want to have a
Still a station wagon.
It's still a station wagon, right? The days when you had a
Crossover by
Porsche
foot.
Turbo and you had
Yeah.
a Cabriolet and you had a thing and you didn't have the station wagon or the thing, those were. I understood that there was value in the uniqueness
But now when
and the exclusivity.
a manufacturer has like 8 different SUV brands within their one station wagon.
So the,
I know.
the question that
It's nuts.
the
It's
question
nuts.
that's unavoidable, and Greg, Greg asked me this a couple of weeks ago, is okay. So what happens to all that inventory that is being now released, that is literally based on this nuanced variables
Yeah.
of differentiated branding? What happens to those 10 years from now?
A very early general manager of mine once said to me, he asked me a question, he says, why do people stay in hotels?
Because my brother-in-law won't let me stay with him.
And I said, oh, they need a place to go and have a nice meal. And he says, nope, wrong. Okay, they need a place to go for their meetings. He goes, nope, wrong. He says, they stay in hotels because they need a place to sleep. Don't ever forget that.
Yeah.
And I never have. And that's what the hotel business is all about. People need a place to sleep.
Head in
We
the
all
bed.
need to sleep every night.
Yep.
And if we're traveling, which we're all doing more and more, we need more places to stay.
Yeah.
And brands, they need to build more hotels to continue the pipeline of fees.
Yeah.
So having more brands is just a natural extension of that.
And we're going to see even more. I mean, we've seen Marriott acquire Starwood. Okay, we've seen various other. It was announced this morning that Red Lion bought Nights Inn from Wyndham. Wyndham's trying to buy La Quinta. It's this checkerboard where everybody's moving all over the place right now. And I think part of it is you've still got a lot of brands that have a little bit of a boomer glimmer to them still, like Travelodge and a few others. If you were like me, I grew up in the 60s. My parents dragged me on Route 66 from California to Chicago to Kalamazoo, Michigan, okay? And I'd spend summers there, and I'd also spend summers out in New York with my dad's side of the family. So, yeah, I got to know, I think, every freaking Travelodge across the United States at one point in time. But some of that supply has to go by the wayside. That's one of the problems, I think, with like Phoenix. You've got a ton of old property that no barriers to entry, and all of a sudden you've got a motique.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't have a flag anymore. It's still an exterior corridor, built in the 1960s. It's got a kidney-shaped pool, and somebody is, painted it atomic red or some other color, and now it's a motique. So I think the new brands do serve a purpose. I'm just worried that we've had too many focus groups and going headfirst into the millennials, where I think you're going to see a big difference between the early half of the millennial generation and the latter half. Because I think the latter half was really the brainier side of that generation. Now, and I think that's because that latter half got to see the trials and tribulations of their older siblings and their cousins and said, oh no, I'm not going down that path. I'm going to go do something else. So, and
Well,
trust me,
I've
they're in charge of
I've got
the
three.
world soon.
I've got 3 millennial daughters.
Yeah.
And one in New York, one in Toronto, one in San Francisco. And where do they stay when they're traveling?
hotels.
No,
Oh, with you.
no. Airbnb.
Me. Really?
And it's by choice, not because they have to.
No, because what that manager of yours told you is absolutely correct. In their mind, and if you think about it, in most cases, unless you're going there for the property to stay for the weekend or an extended stay, like you're going to the Wailea, for example, the Grand Wailea, or you're going to a particular signature property, whatever, staying a weekend at the Four Seasons on Doheny or something, right?
Yeah.
If you're not, that's exactly what you're doing. I'm going to London not because I'm going to stay at that friggin' hotel on Park Lane. I'm going to London so I can enjoy London, but then I want a place to be able to sleep. Maybe I want to be able to call for room service for a certain caliber. Maybe I want to have a drink at the bar before I go to the room.
Right.
But I'm not staying at that hotel because of the hotel, which is really interesting. That's why I'm saying when you clutter the market with a lot of inventory, where does it become price sensitive?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Minimum requirement
Well,
of
I think it's
cleanliness,
always price
right?
sensitive.
it's
don't
a
you think,
supply.
David?
It's a supply and demand business. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at the
And are we
supply,
saying that the demand is there for that kind of increase in supply?
right now it is. But the moment
that sustainable?
the moment that stops, of course it's not. It's never
Yeah.
never ever been. It's a cycle. It's always
always,
going to be a cycle.
yeah.
Right.
And when it stops, who knows, right? But it's
Yeah.
like that game we used to play, musical chairs or
Chairs.
whatever. There'll be one less chair on the floor.
Well, exactly. And if you look at San Francisco, okay, San Francisco's had the luxury of 90% occupancy and $500 a night rate plus for a very long time. Okay? And if your hotel's running 95% occupancy, good problem to have. You're wearing things out faster, though, okay? So
Yeah.
that PIP's going to come up, and it's going to be,
Sure.
we got to replace all the TVs, got to carpeting, this, that, and the other thing. Airbnb, I don't really feel is a factor right now. Because when you're running 95% occupancy and a $500 a night rate, it doesn't matter.
Of course it doesn't.
But as soon as we have that hiccup,
Absolutely.
as soon as something goes south, and all of a sudden that house of cards starts to fall, I don't think it's going to be real estate this time,
Mhm.
but it could be
Be
Wall
something
Street.
else. Yeah.
You know, any
Who
number
knows?
of things.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Manufacturing, any number of things.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everything starts going south. Then it's a huge problem.
Well,
And then we figure out
hotels
what's going to
are
happen.
hotels are a commodity.
They are.
They are. The hotel room is a
Yeah,
commodity.
every 24
And
hours.
It doesn't get priced the same way as coffee, but at the end of the day, it's supply and demand.
Right.
And now what we have is that we have a whole lot more real hotel supply. Plus, we have a whole lot more of Airbnb type of supply
variety.
added
Waiting
to
in
the
the
mix.
wings.
Added
Yeah.
to the mix. And thank God there's more airplanes and more
Yeah.
people are traveling than ever before. But all that will stop too as soon as the top line stops for business.
Herb and Martha, they're 2.5 kids. Two incomes, one goes away. Guess
So
what?
if
It's a day trip to Disneyland for the next
Right.
3 to 4 years.
Bag your own lunch.
Right.
Bag your
And
own
Martha's
lunch.
going to just rip him a new one.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to wrap this up. David, I wanted to thank you for being with us. You've authored a book, 7 Secrets to Create a Financially Engaged Leadership Team in Your Hotel. I want an autographed copy, and I'll even pay
I'd like
for
one
it.
too.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for being here. They can contact you at hotelfinancialcoach.com, and your email address is david@hotelfinancialcoach.com, and you are available for speaking engagements. We're trying to get them at Click 3D. And you also are available to come in and talk to teams anywhere in the country, North America,
Absolutely.
globally.
Yeah, I'm speaking at a conference the week after next in Jasper, Alberta,
Wow.
of all places.
Cold.
No, it'll be nice.
Will it?
In mid-April.
Very
Beautiful.
cool.
The golf course will be open. The elk will be there. But I live here in Orange County, and I'm accessible, for local people in Southern California as well.
Perfect.
Well, I think where we were leaving off the show is that right now everything is rosy.
Pretty
a
much.
lot of properties coming online. Everything is rosy. You may not feel the need, if you're involved in the industry or in any kind of management position, you may not feel the need to delve deeply into your numbers. Everything is fine. Nothing's going to happen. We're good, right? But in fact, that is the time when you need to.
That's the best time
Best
to do
time.
Right,
Yeah.
because nobody's holding a gun to your head, and you have to basically operate and get up to speed in a very timely manner. You actually have the latitude to get your leadership up to snuff, to get the financial nuances and know-how into your system of operations that unfortunately is lacking
Yeah.
because it's not really trained.
it. It's like Earl
So
Nightingale.
call David.
Earl
Call
Nightingale.
David.
Earl Nightingale said, "You enter a market and see what everybody else is doing. Do the opposite."
Opposite.
Exactly.
There you go.
Blue Ocean.
Hey, before we sign off, we had some technical difficulties last week, so I need to thank the sponsors and exhibitors, speakers from the California Lodging Investment Conference 2 that we had on the 8th of last month. So, the All-Star Group, RAR Hospitality, Park West General Contractors, Atlas Hospitality Group, Bronton Hotels, Fidelity Mortgage Lenders, Hotel Investor, Acquire, Arthur J. Gallagher and Company, AHOA, Best Western Hotels and Resorts, Pacific Premier Bank, Azul Hospitality Group, Rad Gantos and Associates, Partner Engineering and Science, Interstate Hotels, JCJ Architecture, Nubo Hotel Finance, Red Roof Inn, Red Roof Plus, Cal Poly Pomona, the Collins College of Hospitality Management, Brighton Management, no vacancy with the Messiah, Glenn Hausman, Lodging Finance, Choice Hotels, Wyndham Hotel Group, California Lodging Industry Association, East West Bank, GLK Analytics, and they are producing a new website for me, and that'll be up soon. IHG, Intercontinental Hotel Groups. And let's see here. We've also got Crew Real Estate Group, Walker Dunlap, Independent Lodging Industry Association, JMBM. Don't forget to be at Meet the Money next month.
We're going to both be there.
Yep. And, well, that's actually Arnie's
conference.
No,
Arnie's conference.
Then we've also got Hotel Management Magazine, the media sponsor for Click. We've got Crew OC, First American Title, Commercial Direct Services. We've got the Latino Hotel Owners Association. We've got Cost Resource. We've got the Taiwanese Hotel Owners and Motel Owners Association of Southern California. TMC Financing. Lodging Econometrics, Mr. Bruce Ford. Great information. Pacifica Hotel Capital and Brokerage. We've also got Nevada Fitness Systems. And last but not least, Chicago Title National Commercial Services. If you do not know Ryan Huntsman at Chicago Title, get to know him. He is that great unknown that you should all be using, and I thank him for his years of support. Today's show has been brought to you by Rad Gantos and Associates, a commercial hospitality and design firm.
And since we are the ones sponsoring this show, I will take the last minute of the show to basically also, on behalf of all the sponsors,
Park West,
that were basically, where's your sponsors list? All the sponsors that were basically engaged in Click 2. I will basically want to pass on thanks and gratitude to Craig Sullivan for leadership and putting on an amazing conference. And if you missed out on being part of it or didn't get your ticket, you should basically pay attention right away when the minute that website goes up and get your ticket for next year, because the last 2 years if he's put this thing on, it's sold out, and understandably so. It's an amazing day of networking opportunities, a whole wealth of knowledge. David was there. We were all there. It really is an amazing thing. And, you know, a lot of us that go to conferences, that go to these long, dragged out, multi-day conferences where basically I smile at you for the first day and basically then have a drink with you at night, and then I don't want to see you for the next 2 days, and I can't wait till get on my plane and go home, and basically do it all in one day. Well, Greg has put together a really focused conference, focused on California hospitality. It's the only one that focuses on California hospitality.
And general format.
And general format is, and then we have had really, really good representation. So the chances are that you meet people that are really the people you want to meet because they're only committing to 1 day of being there. Okay, so make sure to not miss out on California Lodging Investment Conference 3, which is Click 3D. And we'll look for information on this show, and we'll let you guys know when it's open for registration. So that's the graphics will get better, but for now that's what you get. So
hey, you know, we're not in L.A. We're in Orange County.
No, I appreciate that 3D factor there. You know, we spare no expense at this show. So Click 3D is will be coming to you soon. So thanks everybody for joining us, David. Thank you so much.
You're
welcome.
Hopefully we'll have you back again very soon. Great information, great time with you. Thank you very much.
Invest in your people. That's how hospitality works. They're the people. They're your ambassadors.
Leadership.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank
Paul.
you for being our guest today on Checkout California. We look forward to having you as a guest with us again in 2 weeks. Until then, you can always reach us through our Checkout California Facebook page or by emailing us at checkoutcalifornia@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. So do let us know what you think of the show and what areas of interest you'd like to see us cover in the future. Your feedback is very important to us as we continue to bring you the best hospitality our Golden State has to offer. Until next time, may all your days be filled with sunsets and palm trees. Now, go experience and check out California.